The process of getting enough shots to edit the film well is referred to as getting coverage. If we were to shoot an entire scene, say the hut scene, with just one camera, or in other words, just one shot, then our editor might tell us that there isn't enough coverage. That means there's not enough variety in the shots to edit the scene together well. Having enough variety in shot sizes gives the editor a lot more options in the edit. Because, really, editing is not just about putting pieces together. Editing gives you one last chance to fine-tune your story. With edits, you can control the tempo of a scene, as we'll see in the course on editing, but it also gives you the flexibility to add or remove elements, emphasize or de-emphasize elements, and so much more. Look at this example from the end of the goodbye scene. What if we were running low on time, or only planned on getting coverage in this one shot?
It was always you.
But how do I know where to go?
Through forest deep and desert long.
I will be brave. I will be strong.
This is so much more static and weak than cutting between several different shot sizes to control the tempo, as well as to control the emotion, as we vacillate between connecting deeply to Cordea's sadness and feeling her isolation. However, doing the opposite of this and over-covering a scene also creates problems. It exhausts the actors. It takes up tons of precious time on set. It creates a lot more bandwidth of content to both store and sift through during the edit. For the night scene that we looked at in the last couple tutorials, we pretty much only shot what I knew we'd use in the edit. So we didn't shoot the entire scene in the 2-shot or the establishing master shot. When we filmed the 2-shot, for example, we only shot the intro to the scene and the explosion, and that's it. If you know you're not going to use it, then why shoot it? But I suppose that did leave us a little exposed in case those shots didn't work for whatever reason. So getting coverage is basically a balancing act. In the original version of the council scene and the assurance, I wasn't sure how to open the scene, so we got tons of options for the edit. We had this one from behind the preacher's head. We had this sliding shot of the preacher. We had this slider shot on Teani. We had this terrible profile shot. And we had the opening of the scene covered in almost all of the other shots. Now this is the definition of too much coverage. And it really was a matter of my indecision in pre-production. If I would have figured this out, or at least narrowed down my options, then it would have saved so much time and so much energy from the actors and extras, and memory card space and hard drive space during the edit, and the time spent cataloging the files and so on. Now, the rest of the scene has kind of the opposite problem, not enough coverage. I don't have a single shot of the townspeople just reacting. That's terrible. Reaction shots are like music in that they tell us how to feel. So the first half of the scene has too much coverage, but the second half doesn't have enough. Note that when you're only covering something in a single shot, like in the last tutorial when we looked at Teani blowing the particles, for example, it's so important to do that one shot really, really well. It's important to have good monitors and to check the scene on set and to double check playback and make absolutely sure that you got the shot before you move on. It also doesn't hurt to have a backup angle just in case there was some problem with that great shot. But sometimes, again, like the Teani blowing particle shot, there just isn't another option that would work. I'm sure in the famous super long shot in Children of Men that there wasn't any coverage. That shot had to work, and that's the case sometimes. But just be careful when you're shooting without coverage and plan accordingly. Getting coverage is a large burden on your shoulders as director. If possible, get the input of your cinematographer and maybe even your editor if they've been hired already. Both of these team members will be intimately acquainted with getting coverage and might have some feedback to help you. Ultimately, though, it's a delicate balance of how much coverage is enough and how much is too much. So choose wisely.